Our last caller, if you missed, you could rewind on the Odyssey app, was talking glowingly about Pete Alonso, my guy, your guy. We all love Pete Alonso, except for those that buried him. Sean Morash, Sal McCullough, Tommy Lucaller. But we all love Pete. He's off to a great start. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Steve Cohen did an interview with John Heyman the other day. My good friend John Heyman, we're on great terms. Okay, we texted each other. We're all good.
Especially after he apologized to you.
That's right. He apologized.
Can't even believe it.
Apologized to me for no reason. I have no idea why, but we love each other. So John was interviewing Steve Cohen and did this incredible thing. He was like, Pete Alonso, represented by Scott Morris. You should really pay him. He didn't say any of that, but he was talking up Pete like we would and asked Steve Cohen point blank, all right, he's going to opt out at the end of the year. Can you see Pete staying here? Can you get something done midseason? Here is what Steve Cohen had to say about bringing back Peter Jefferson Aloysius Alonso.
He's gotten off to a fantastic start. He's a fan favorite. We're thrilled that, obviously he's on the team and, we know he can opt out at the end of the year and we'll deal with it then. I just dealt with this 2 months ago. Okay, do I have to start dealing with this again? Let it kind of, play itself out. Obviously Pete's going to explore his market like he should, and I'm supportive of that, and we'll see where it goes.
So that doesn't sound encouraging.
That sounds like a guy who said, I ain't deal with this again anytime soon.
Yeah, good riddance after this year. If you opt out, good riddance.
No, you took that?
Yes.
No.
It sounded like he has zero desire, even though he was joking about it. I'm just listening how I listen. Even though he was joking about it, he wants nothing to do with negotiating with Scott Boras, especially if Pete Alonso has a breakout, unbelievable contract year. That's what that sounded like.
I didn't take that way at all.
That's what I heard.
Okay, I heard something different.
What did you hear?
I heard, forget, don't even ask me about getting something done midseason. That's dead.
Okay, what about and he's going to opt out.
Well, hold on.
He's going to opt out and explore his wishes, and I wish him all the luck.
Well, because
dude, go ahead.
No.
Somebody else will pay you a lot of money. I don't have to deal with Scott Boras again.
What pissed off Steve Cohen last year was that Pete Alonso and Scott Boras were asking for things that no one else was offering. So he explored the market. There was nothing there, and was still asking the Mets for more money or more years than he was being offered anywhere else.
All right, so do you think that there is going to be a more robust market for Pete Alonso a year later?
I have no idea, and I am skeptical that there will be. And
exactly.
That's why.
So I'm saying Steve Cohen wants nothing to do with the same exact thing he just went through.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he wants to deal with it right now, considering he just finished it like 2 months ago.
No.
I don't take it as Pete's gone. I take it as forget the idea of a midseason extension. Anyone who is suggesting that, that's not happening, and it doesn't really make sense, honestly, for either side. It's better for Pete to have the open market.
Is it?
And it's better. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because what are you negotiating against right now? You're asking the Mets for what? The
Last season.
Excuse me?
Last season.
What does that mean, last season?
I'm much better this season. Now, I proved to you that I could be viable. Again, it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Okay, but let's play this out. So you're Pete Alonso and Scott Boras, and I'm David Stearns. Okay, tell me what you want again. What do you want?
A fairer long-term offer.
Well, what do you want? You tell me what you want. You're the guy talking. You called me up. What
I'm
do you
31
want?
years old. I want a 6-year deal.
Yeah, we're going to let you go to free agency, test your market. You deserve it. You're a wonderful player, and then get back to us. I think it's the same thing as last year.
I need to make at least $30 million.
No, that's cool. I respect that. Go to the market. Test yourself,
and
we'll get back to you.
He's not getting that.
Well, I agree he may not get that, which is why Steve Cohen is smart to say, go to free agency again, and then get back to me. And if the number and the years are something we're comfortable with, we'll hit it. We'll re-sign. Pete clearly wants to be here, but it doesn't make any sense to negotiate against yourself. And that was the problem that Steve Cohen had last year. They were being asked to negotiate against themselves. Why would you do that?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm just saying, it sounds to me like Steve Cohen wants nothing to do with negotiating at all, whether against yourself or anybody else, with Scott Boras.
I have to hear this one more time now, because I did not hear that at all.
Listen to the response when he says, Pete's going to go into free agency, and I'll be fully supportive.
I'm going to be open-minded. I'm going to see if Tiki is going to depress me on this Tuesday and make me think that my billionaire owner is telling Pete Alonso to kick rocks. I don't think that's the case. But I'm going to listen a second time, just like everyone in the audience is, and we'll all determine it together.
He's gotten off to a fantastic start. He's a fan favorite. We're thrilled that, obviously he's on the team. And, we know we can opt out at the end of the year, and we'll deal with it then. It's like I just dealt with this 2 months ago. Okay, do I have to start dealing with this again? Let it kind of play itself out. Obviously Pete's going to explore his market like he should, and I'm supportive of that, and we'll see where it goes.
You're a troublemaker, Tiki.
I'm not.
You're a troublemaker.
He's going to explore his market, and we'll see where it goes.
Let me give you an analogy.
How else can you hear that?
I'll tell you exactly how.
Okay, go ahead.
So me and my wife, this didn't happen. I'm making this up. Me and my wife are planning out this awesome anniversary weekend. Mm-hmm. Okay? So much stuff. So you know what? I don't want to use that one. We're going to Europe.
Okay.
My wife's been planning this thing out for a year. And she asks me, hey, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? And I'm like, yes, I'm trying. So much about Europe. I can't wait to go, Teak, but it's a lot. So the trip happens. We have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
The trip's fantastic. If 2 weeks later, my wife says, all right, let's plan Asia. We're going next year. I'd be like, are you serious? We just did this. I'm not against going to Asia. But can we let it breathe? And so what Steve is saying is,
he's so wrong.
I just did this dance with Scott and Pete.
Yeah.
Why are you
so
asking
wrong.
me a month into the season to dance again?
It's so interesting. So interesting that you picked that specific analogy. Now,
yeah.
if you say, we're going to Europe, it's fantastic. We just had this whole conversation. We booked the travel. We booked the hotels. We know what we're doing. It's all set. We're all good. And you don't have to do a thing else other than take the days off, which you've already done, get on a plane, and go enjoy Europe, right? Mm-hmm. And then your wife, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, a month later, says, you know what? I'm really thinking about next year. Let's go to Asia.
Right.
And you're like, I don't want to think about that. You know why you should? And it's exactly why Steve Cohen should. It'll be cheaper. Yep. And the longer you wait, the more expensive the flight is, the more chaotic it becomes, the more urgency that you have, the more stressful it feels. But when you give yourself time, it makes it a whole lot easier.
I'll tell you why it doesn't work in this case. But first, I do want to...
That's exactly what you do with travel.
I do want to remind everyone...
We book our travel. We know we're going next year.
I get it. Maybe that wasn't the best analogy,
but it was the perfect one to make my case.
You are listening to WFAN, WFAN FM, WFAN FM, HD1 New York, and Odyssey Sports Station. So... if you are trying to keep Pete Alonso, which I do believe the Mets will try to do again,
yes,
you are better negotiating with the entire baseball universe telling you what Pete is worth versus blindly negotiating on a contract you don't even know if he would get in the open market.
I don't think that – well, he's already making $30 million. Right. So that's the going rate for a good high upper-end first baseman. We already know he's that. He had a bad contract year a year ago. Let's toss that up to for whatever analogy or pressure working in the situation. Maybe his process was off. Who knows? Whatever it was. He's going to make about $30 million. If you're going to prepay somebody, it comes at a discount. Period.
So then why would Scott and Pete accept a discount? They wouldn't even accept that.
Because he wants to be here.
He does, but he also wants to make the most money. We saw that in free agency last year. He wants both.
Yeah, but should he? Or should he take what he can get? Because I don't think there's going to be a robust free agent market for Pete Alonso. I just don't.
By the way, I agree with you.
He's going to be 31 years old.
I agree with you, which is why if I'm Steve Cohen, I have the whole, let's talk about it in the offseason. Let's see what the market is. I'll probably match his best offer and he'll be back.
I'm not saying it's offseason. I'm just saying it's somewhere down the line this year.
Let me tell you this right now, because I want you to understand this part of me as a Met fan. If all of a sudden the news broke and the glass broke, and Sean and Loogie are like, yeah, 4-year deal for Pete Alonso.
$120 million.
I'd be ecstatic.
Right.
I'm not against it. I'm just trying to be smart here, and I'm looking at what happened last year, and I'm looking at what Steve just said in that interview, and that sounds like a guy who's not saying, I'll get rid of you. It sounds like a guy who's saying, I'm not playing that game again. Go to free agency, and we'll see what happens. And if you get a big offer, we'll decide if we feel you're worth it. If we're not, we'll let you go.
Okay, but that puts decision into the conversation as opposed to keeping it at certainty. I want to be here. You guys want me here because I'm having such a great season here. Let me end my career as a New York Met, break whatever milestones or get to whatever milestones. And guess what? We're not negotiating with anyone. This is the deal that I would like. and it's manageable. You're already paying me $30 million this year. Let's make it a clean 4-120, and everybody's happy. And nobody's talking about it anymore.
I don't even think they're going to.
And then we don't have to have this Scott Boras injecting his opinion on what Pete's market should be. He should be making $40 million.
But that's why he's not going to accept that, because Scott is still his agent and is still going to advise. You're having an MVP kind of season.
Yeah, but
go to free agency.
Okay, but I ask you this. I asked it before we had this conversation.
Yes.
Do you think there's going to be a robust market for Pete Alonso after this season with the Mets?
Are you asking me or Scott Boras?
I'm asking you as a representative of Scott Boras.
I think he will have a better market than he just had, but it will not be the robust market Scott Boras thinks. But Scott Boras thinks he's going to have a robust market, which means this conversation would go nowhere. It would go nowhere. And so Steve Cohen is expressing that by saying, I'll worry about it in November.
Who's in charge?
Well,
is it Scott Boras or is it Pete Alonso?
It's complicated.
If Pete Alonso says, hey, I want to be here. I'll take $30 million for the next 4 years at 120 and finish my career as a Met, become an icon. And if it comes down to it at 35, I'm still mashing. We'll do 1-year deals.
Can I ask you one other thing, though, too, that you have to throw in there? And I don't get caught in this, but I do want to bring it up because I'm sure there's a lot of people thinking it. If you're a Met fan and the Mets are 20-9, they're off to a wonderful start. And everything isn't clicking, obviously.
Yeah.
Juan Soto is not Juan Soto yet. They just got Alvarez and McNeil back. But Pete Alonso has been the MVP of the team through the first 29 games.
No doubt.
Would you mess with that? Would you mess with that by giving him an extension? Wouldn't you say to yourself, you know what?
I think
this is just keep raking,
I think
bro.
Giving him the extension makes it even easier for him.
You think so?
100%. It just makes him free.
Can I tell you a story?
There's no pressure.
I got to tell you something that's Knicks-Mets related. Since today is a Knicks day and we're mixing in the Mets. In 2004, the New York Knicks moved into a playoff spot. No, it wasn't 2004. What year was it? It was after they made the playoffs in 04. And Isaiah Thomas got in. I want to get this story right. I apologize. I may be muffing it. But the Knicks gave Isaiah Thomas an extension like as they got to the 8th seed in the middle of a season. And then the Knicks completely collapsed. And I remember some Knicks fans thinking, oh, my God, why would we do that?
Right.
Wait till the season's over. Like, we haven't accomplished anything yet. And in the case of Pete Alonso, he's had a great month. But would you really want to rush to pay him off of a great month as opposed to saying, go have a great year? I am a billionaire owner. I'll pay you what the market dictates, assuming you earn that?
I wouldn't do it over a month. I wouldn't do it over, probably not even at the trade deadline. It'd be as the season is certain, we know what he is.
So you wouldn't do it now?
No, definitely not.
Well, that's what Steve's saying.
We're just having this conversation right now. But Steve is saying we're going to let him go into free agency, and we'll see what happens. Good luck.
But I don't take that as they kicking him out. I take it as he deserves it. We'll pay him if we need to.
What I heard was him saying, I dislike, maybe not Scott Boras, but negotiating with Scott Boras.
This has to happen right now. April 29th, 3:07 p.m. And we did this last year, but we're bringing it back. Is Pete Alonso going to be a Met in 2026, Tiki Barber?
It depends. It depends on Steve Cohen.
That's not
there, be square.
If Steve Cohen is open to negotiating with Pete Alonso, and we'll find this out because he'll be asked this frequently now that Heyman opened this can of worms. If he's open to negotiating as the season is getting not towards the end, because you don't want to be messing with the playoffs, but back quarter of this season, then the answer is yes.
That was very convoluted. What's your answer, Teak?
If Steve Cohen changes his tune that, yes, we'll negotiate with Pete to sign him long-term in the back quarter of this season, he will be a Met.
So you're saying, let me just clarify.
If Steve Cohen is saying, go to free agency, Pete, we love you, test the market, he's not going to be a Met.
I got you now. So if he gets to free agency, he's gone.
Yes.
But you still think there's a chance they would get something done before the season is over?
Yes.
Okay. I completely disagree with you on both accounts. Let me write that down. April 29th, 3:07 p.m. By the way, speaking of April 29th, coming up a little after 5 o'clock, it's a new segment here on Evan and Tiki. We will ask Sal Licata if the NL East is over. So we will find out from Sal right around 5:06, 5:07 if the NL East is over.
The NL East is over.
That's not today. That was a few years ago.
I am wrong.
Sean Moore Josh, will Pete Alonso be a Met in 2026?
I think the moment Vlad Guerrero Jr. re-signed in Toronto, Pete Alonso was always going to be a Met in 2026.
Loogie, will Pete Alonso be a Met in 2026?
Pete Alonso will 1,000% be a Met in 2026. And one little part of that clip that we didn't mention is that Steve Cohen acknowledged how much of a fan favorite Pete is. Pete's going to have this monster season. There's no shot they don't re-sign him.
Yeah,
They'll
so,
extend him.
You know what's funny?
That's why it's going to happen before the season.
I agree, because you know what? It's going to be. You know when it's going to be a big topic? When Pete Alonso is at the All-Star game as an actual All-Star this year, not just doing the home run derby.
Right.
Every year, that's a topic at the All-Star game, and that's where I think it'll get done around that time period.
I think that Steve Cohen lets his baseball people make baseball decisions, but I think sometimes you have to make a business decision.
This is a business
And
decision.
this past offseason...
Juan Soto was a business decision.
Absolutely. It was baseball and business. He's a hell of a baseball player. I think David Stearns wanted him too, but it's also business. If there was a moment to let Pete Alonso go away, it was this offseason. Despite the home run against Milwaukee. He was coming off a down year, plus they added Juan Soto.